dignity. An edition of the Laundering. An institutional critique, and its discipline is its argument. It does not weigh any individual's decision, and it does not present death as a rational exit. The subject is the policy architecture, never the person. The structural claim. A state that funds the exit more reliably than it funds a livable floor, then describes the exit in the language of dignity, autonomy, compassion, choice, has laundered the absence of an alternative into the appearance of a free one.
And whose critique is this?
First, the people who raised it. Disability rights organizations, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, dissenting clinicians, all of whom argue for the floor. So does this edition. Genuine choice cannot exist where the alternative is engineered scarcity.
Section 1. The laundered claim.
The gentlest available vocabulary: dignity, autonomy, compassion, choice. Good words, which is precisely what makes them effective as a wash. Applied to a decision made under engineered constraint, the word choice does specific work. It relocates the cause of a death from the conditions the state set to the agency of the person who acted within them. This edition does not contest that autonomy matters. It contests the use of autonomy's vocabulary to describe a situation in which the alternative was never funded.
Section 2. The dirty input.
Engineered scarcity, the underfunded conditions for a livable life, poverty, disability without adequate support, the absence of accessible housing, inadequate or inaccessible palliative and community care. None of these is a natural fact. Each is a budget line, set by allocation. The subject is that allocation, not any individual standing on the gradient it produces.
Section 3. The wash cycle.
The language of self-determination and compassionate choice applied to a decision made on a state-set gradient. The eligibility record runs alongside it, expanding by statute and court order. Bill C-14 legalized assisted dying in June 2016, requiring death to be reasonably foreseeable. The Quebec-Truchon decision struck that criterion in 2019. Bill C-7 in 2021 removed it and opened Track 2 for those whose death is not reasonably foreseeable. By 2024, it accounted for 5.1% of all deaths in Canada. Track 2 was 4.4%, 732 provisions.
And the floor.
The question the critique asks is whether the floor widened with the door. The vocabulary describes freedom. The budget describes constraint.
Section 3.5. The false choice. Consent or exit.
The connective logic for the whole series. A system cannot legitimately say, take it or leave it, while it controls both the taking and the leaving. The leave it is presented as freedom. The series documents it was engineered to be unavailable, unbearable, or terminal. The take it or leave it analogy failing is itself the evidence.
And the response.
The correct response to a manufactured false choice is to expose the manufacture and demand the floor, not to walk through the door the system left open. This is an indictment of the system. It is never a conclusion about what any person should do.
Section 4. The floor, line by line.
The forensic centerpiece. The door set against the floor. The door, eligibility, widened by statute on schedule. C-14, Truchon, C-7, Track 2. By 2024, 5.1% of all deaths. The floor, the supports that make staying livable, did not move with it. The Canada Disability Benefit, the marquee floor measure, pays a maximum of $200 a month in 2025. By the government's own figures, not enough to lift households out of poverty in any jurisdiction, against roughly 1.6 million disabled Canadians below the poverty line. About 42% of Canadians who die receive no palliative care. Only about 15% can access it at home, though 3/4 say they would prefer to die at home. The door is a statute. The floor is a line item, and only one of them moved.
Section 5. When the institution raises the exit.
The asymmetry can surface at the point of contact. In 2022, Veterans Affairs Canada confirmed a caseworker had raised or offered assisted dying to at least 4 veterans who had approached the department for support. One seeking help for post-traumatic stress. Another, a former Paralympian, seeking a wheelchair ramp. The minister referred the matter to the RCMP and called it the conduct of a single employee. The Prime Minister called it unacceptable.
And the structural point.
The addition does not generalize from contested individual cases, and it takes the single employee account as part of the record. It notes only what the episode made visible, that an arm of the state administering support surfaced the exit at the very contact point where the floor was supposed to be offered. Whether singular or systemic, the exit can present itself where support is sought. Exactly the configuration a thin floor and a wide door make available.
Section 4. The tell.
An asymmetry documented by the critique's own sources, human rights bodies and disability advocates who argue for the floor, not for the exit. In 2019, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities urged safeguards to ensure that persons with disabilities do not request assisted dying simply because there are no community-based alternatives or palliative care. In 2021, 3 UN experts jointly warned the expansion risks furthering the devaluation of life with disability and reiterating the ableist stereotype that significant disability can be worse than death. At the 2025 UN review, the committee called disabled people seeking it for unmet needs a systemic failure of the state party.
And the mechanism.
Not anyone's intent, the structural output of separately set budget decisions, the exit pathway administratively reliable, the supports that would make staying livable neither reliable nor adequate. That is the tell, the language of choice obscuring the absence of an alternative.
Section 7. What this does and does not claim.
It does not claim that any individual's decision was wrong or coerced. It does not evaluate a single death, and it does not present death as a rational exit. It does not claim that autonomy at the end of life is illegitimate or that assistance in dying should not exist. And it does not claim intent, that any government wants these deaths.
And what it does claim.
That the eligibility door widened by statute while the floor did not. That UN human rights bodies and Canadian disability rights organizations have, on the record, warned this configuration places unsupported people at risk, and that the vocabulary of dignity, autonomy, compassion, choice describes as a free decision a situation in which the alternative was never funded. That transposition, naming an engineered scarcity of free choice, is the laundering.
Section 5. The metadata and the series.
The records carry it. The eligibility expansion timeline set against the social support, disability income, and palliative care lines that did not widen with it. The through line across the additions is manufactured constraint, dressed as free choice. Edition 1 launders accountability into reputation. The open world launders confinement behind capital's freedom. This edition launders engineered scarcity into the language of dignity. A choice is only free if the alternatives are real. The critique is not against autonomy, it is against calling something autonomy when the flaw that would make it autonomous was never built.